every year around this time, it's who's going to be the breakout candidate? What's the team that's going to surprise? Who's going to disappoint? Who's under the most pressure? Who's on the hot seat? And it's totally open-ended. There's a bunch of different ways you can go with any of that stuff, right? I think for who needs a Super Bowl win the most, whose legacy, reputation would benefit from one the most, there's a pretty obvious answer here, and it is Josh Allen. And Josh Allen, to me, he's a guy I root for. I've never met him. I've never spoke to him. I have absolutely no connection to the Buffalo Bills organization in any way. But Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, all-time greats who played during the Michael Jordan era, like, man, that must have been tough. That's what it feels like Josh Allen is in the Patrick Mahomes era. Because we saw this not that long ago, right? It was Brady and Manning, but there was also Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers in the AFC. It was just a dominant thing, and Ben Roethlisberger got his, Phillip Rivers never did, and it'll probably keep Phillip Rivers out of Canton, even though he's 6th all-time in yards and touchdowns. Josh Allen is the 2nd best player in football. Lamar Jackson made that an interesting conversation last year when he had over 40 passing touchdowns and under 5 interceptions, going the full Rodgers. But for a real body of work, it has been Josh Allen. And obviously Josh got his MVP last year. But if you look at the sample of 5 years, his prime basically, like since Josh Allen became Josh Allen, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, it would be universally agreed upon that this guy was the best player in football, because it is universally agreed upon that Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football. And the only thing that Josh Allen can't do is be better than Patrick Mahomes. He's 2nd in wins, he's 2nd in passing yards, and he's 2nd in passing touchdowns over the last 5 years, with Mahomes being first, and first across the board. That has got to be a maddening existence, especially because unlike a Lamar Jackson or even a Joe Burrow, like Joe Burrow beat Mahomes once in the playoffs, but he's also gone back-to-back years without making it. Josh Allen is in the playoffs every year. And when they lose, he is still playing well all the time. Now, did he execute on the final drive? No. Then this is parsing greatness, right? The 1st best quarterback in the NFL versus the 2nd best quarterback in the NFL. I am not saying his playoff resume is perfect. Obviously, it isn't. He hasn't been to a Super Bowl. He hasn't won an AFC Championship game, won a Super Bowl, all those things. We understand what he hasn't done. But if you actually look at how Josh Allen has played when he's lost to Mahomes, when he has been the guy to slay the dragon, everyone talks about leaving the field in 13 seconds and they blew the kickoff, and then Mahomes and the plays with Kelsey and everything like that. Yes, that is one of them. But Josh Allen has scored 24 or more in all 4 of the losses to the Chiefs. He's got 11 touchdowns against 1 pick. When he lays his head on the pillow at night, and yes, he's got his gorgeous, famous wife. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He's got an MVP. And no one's passing the hat for Josh Allen. No one feels sorry for Josh Allen. But there's got to be some element of, is there anything more I could do? Is there anything more that I could be doing? Because it's the ultimate team game. We all know it. And he addressed it in the context, actually, of Scottie Scheffler. And Scottie Scheffler, before he won the Open, kind of set the social media golf world ablaze when he was like, listen, I work all this time to win golf tournaments, and then 2 minutes later, there's no more joy from winning the golf tournament because it isn't what fulfills me. I thought it was fascinating and an insight into the best golfer we've seen since Tiger. But Josh Allen said it resonated with him as well.
Scottie Scheffler had that really good interview right before the Open that spoke a lot to me, and I really appreciate him sharing those words. But yeah, it's kind of crazy where you're just kind of coming out here and you're doing everything that you can for a quick enjoyment of it, and then you're on to the next. Yeah. And it's, again, it's like the MVP awards. Like, I don't look back and think about that night. Like, it happened, it was over with, and I'll never think about it again, to be honest.
there is something that's sad about that, but any high performer would understand it's the journey, it's the process, it's what you go through to get there, because that's what actually takes the time. And then when you sink the final putt or you hoist the Lombardi trophy, at some point that night ends and you just go back. I think it makes a ton of sense what Scheffler said, that it would relate with Josh Allen. But if Josh Allen were to win, like, let's just play out the hypothetical. Let's say Josh Allen plays the Chiefs in the playoffs again, and this time he beats them. And the Bills, who are a slightly better favorite in the AFC than the Chiefs, that's mostly because they play in the AFC East, but still, let's say the Bills won that Super Bowl and Josh Allen had his Super Bowl moment, was the Super Bowl MVP. All of a sudden, he's like, all right, I've got an MVP, I've got a Super Bowl, I've got a Super Bowl MVP, and I beat Mahomes on the way there. He would still be a distant second to Mahomes, obviously. Multiple MVPs, the 3 rings, the multiple appearances, all obviously there's nothing that could happen this year that could have Josh Allen passing Patrick Mahomes. But at least the Manning-Brady rivalry could potentially start to creep back into existence, because Brady has the way better trophy case, but Peyton Manning was looked at as a worthy adversary, an all-time great, a first-ballot Hall of Famer, a truly worthy number 2 to Brady's number 1. He got to the 4 Super Bowls. He won a couple of them. They had epic regular season battles. They both were able to beat each other in the postseason, the regular season, same thing. Now it's Josh has beaten Patrick in the regular season, but never in the postseason, and Mahomes has all of the hardware. When Josh Allen has to look around and he's like, I'm just as good as this guy. He has to believe that, even if you and I don't. Because if he is that close to him statistically over a huge sample size for that long, and he's beaten him in the regular season, I have no reason to believe that he doesn't believe that he can get there. And quick aside, I'm glad that Scottie Scheffler is having his moment here after the Open. Takes the claret jug and he goes to the Happy Gilmore 2 premiere, and now Happy Gilmore 2 is out. Y'all need to relax a little bit. Everyone needs to relax with the hot takes on Happy Gilmore 2. The movie's fine. You go in with low expectations, and then it clears them. It was nostalgic. There were cameos. I won't give anything away, but Scheffler's was hilarious. Will Zalatoris was hilarious. John Daly's was funny. You know what you're getting going into an Adam Sandler movie. He's a volume shooter. Can he give you uncut gems and punch-drunk love? Yeah. But he also wants to put his family and friends in movies and have a good time and hang out and do some ridiculousness and do some dumb stuff and do some callbacks. It was a movie. It was fine. I'll never watch it again. But it was the best thing ever. It was the worst thing ever. No. It was an Adam Sandler movie in 2025 that hundreds of millions of people will somehow watch it based on the Netflix algorithm, and we'll all keep going on with our lives, and you can't recreate the nostalgia of the classic from the 90s, but we grew up. That's kind of how it works. So I'm glad Scottie Scheffler had his moment, though, because he's seen as this like robotic golfer, and then he was hilarious in the movie. But Josh Allen having the ability to come to grips with being second and having that emotional maturity to understand, I'm doing everything I can. I have been great. I have been great in the regular season. I have been great in the postseason. And no one looks around. Very good offensive line. They transitioned and gave him a more balanced attack with Cook. They've changed offensive coordinators. They have figured out a way to consistently be great with a great quarterback, not with a super team, not with all pros everywhere, just on the talent and the development and the leadership of that guy, of Josh Allen. They have figured out a way to put themselves in a position to every single year be competing for a shot at a Lombardi trophy. There is no doubt in my mind that Josh Allen is going to win at some point. He's just got to slay that dragon. And then when he does, I would say the rivalry is on. So I hope we get Bills Chiefs again in the playoffs. And even though I covered the Chiefs for years and lived in Kansas City, if Josh Allen got his, I'd feel like he's earned it because he's been the second best to Mahomes for 5 years at this point. Speaking of the Chiefs, there is access is good. And we see stories all the time now because we're on the internet and we are addicted to football that we want any little nugget or morsel of information. Anthony Richardson threw an interception. He's going to never figure it out. Caleb Williams threw an interception. Ben Johnson's innovation on offense isn't working. That is just how it works in the information age and how addicted to football we are. And I'm not even saying that there's nothing that you can take out of reports from training camp. Hey, they put lines on these preseason games. I'm not above gambling on the Hall of Fame game. I think it can have impact on your fantasy drafts. I'm not saying don't pay attention to it. But judging stats or results from practices is insane. Almost none of it matters. But if you want a topic from training camp that does matter, I would give you Josh Simmons being with the ones for the Kansas City Chiefs already. Josh Simmons was supposed to be a top 15 pick out of Ohio State. And he broke his patellar tendon and he fell to the Chiefs with the 31st pick in the draft. And anyone who remembers the Chiefs season last year, it was a revolving door, right? 4 different guys played left tackle for the Chiefs. So much so that they had to shift Joe Thuney, their all-pro guard, from left guard to left tackle, and now he's on the Bears. So it became a situation where then the Eagles, of course, dominated the Chiefs' offensive line, among other things that they dominated in that Super Bowl, and it brought flashbacks to when the Chiefs lost to Tampa in the Super Bowl, when Mahomes' offensive line fell apart. Last year, this was the worst offensive line of the Mahomes era. He was hit 118 times. He was sacked 41 times, 4 different left tackles. They lose their left guard to the Bears. The guy they drafted, Kingsley Suamatiala, in the second round 2 years ago, now he's going to be their left guard. But if Josh Simmons is what Josh Simmons is supposed to be, a top 15 pick on a cheap contract who immediately comes in and plays left tackle, well, now all of a sudden, you've got an elite prospect on a cheap contract at left tackle. Kingsley goes from left tackle to left guard, second year in the league. Creed Humphrey, center, one of the best centers in the NFL under a long-term contract. Trey Smith, one of the best right guards in the NFL under a long-term contract. And while Jawan Taylor frustrates people because he gets a few too many penalties, and he does that like little quick jump off where it feels like he's getting a jump off the line of scrimmage that a bunch of guys do. Jawan Taylor is a fine right tackle. And then they signed Moore, the backup from the Niners, to a healthy contract. All of a sudden, the Chiefs offensive line, if Simmons is legit, goes from huge liability, huge weakness to massive strength. And last season, the Chiefs offense was just not impressive. It was not impressive in terms of points scored, obviously. But the big one that anyone could see if you watched the game was like, where did the big plays go? And it wasn't just like Tyreek Hill. He's been gone for a few years. Like, where is, and it's not, did Mahomes forget how to throw the deep ball? No. Is it all just that the opposing defensive coordinators are doing the cover 2 shell and daring you to beat them underneath? Yeah, that's some of it. They were last in the NFL in touchdowns that went 20-plus yards. Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy played a grand total of 0 snaps together last year. Hollywood Brown is healthy. We'll see what discipline comes for Rashee Rice off the field. Xavier Worthy had the great Super Bowl, but those three guys are going to play together this year. And the offensive line should be better. So that means the offense should be better. And those are the types of training camp stories, to me, that matters. New guy in new place, rookie making an adjustment, healthy or not healthy. When a player throws an interception, well, did the coach before the rep tell him, you've got to go to this route because we've got to work on the timing there? Was he playing against the ones or the twos? What was going on with the offensive line? We don't know. We don't know so many of the details of what they were trying to accomplish in a given play or a given drill that reporting on successes or failures or stats or any of that just feels like a fool's errand. But the Kansas City Chiefs got a franchise caliber left tackle with the 31st pick in the draft, who we didn't know if he was going to be healthy for week 1, and he was healthy for day 1 of training camp. So the guy they signed from the Niners is now rotating on the right side of the offensive line instead of the left side of the offensive line. Yeah, that's a story. Chiefs offense catching up with the Chiefs defense, which has carried them the last couple of years, that's a story. Because if Spagnuolo gets the defense to be what the defense has been, the offense gets back to being what the offense was, that's why the Chiefs aren't afraid of the Broncos or the Chargers or the improved Raiders or anyone else. Because last year, 2 years ago, they won the Super Bowl leading the league in drops. Last year, they had the least explosive offense in the NFL, had 4 different left tackles, and they won 15 games and made it to the Super Bowl. So you want a training camp story that matters? Josh Simmons getting reps already. Forget reps. He's your first string left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a training camp story that matters.